LA 正在烧火嘞, and it is the worst in its entire history. Already, just over 1% of Los Angeles has been burnt to the ground, and the impact is so massive you can see it from space. And the thing is, this level of destruction possibly could have all been prevented. In fact, there was someone who warned all of LA just 6 months ago. But in spite of those warnings, because of one man and one woman's decisions, 整个 LA 正在落晒, and the people are suffering a terrible disaster. So for this episode, 不要准备爆米花, because a lot of our viewers actually live in LA, and they are suffering through this disaster right now. So this episode is dedicated to you guys, because 真的是代志大条。所以我们上一集有介绍过最完美的、最有钱的加拿大 and how a 超级帅 Prime Minister completely transformed it into a shithole. From implementing ridiculous woke DEI policies to increasing the national debt by tenfold and ultimately turning some of its most beautiful cities into crime and drug-infested rat holes. Well,
California is facing a $68 billion budget shortfall. Last year, California had a $97 billion surplus. So much money, the state gave back cash to Californians in what was called the middle class tax refund. A year later, we're facing a deficit.
Businesses across California are now paying more in taxes because of a series of spending decisions state leaders made over the last couple of years. The state did not pay back its $20 billion loan from the federal government that helped with California's unemployment costs during the pandemic. Even though the state had budget surpluses coming out of the pandemic, they put nothing towards the principal of that loan.
$27.6 billion. That's what Governor Gavin Newsom believes is the size of the state's projected budget deficit. But this new report from the nonpartisan Legislative Analyst's Office independently reviewed Newsom's budget and concluded the governor is facing a $55 billion deficit, twice the size of his projection.
Look no further than its neighbor to the south, in my country, you will find on an even larger scale, a state governor who 比土豆还帅2倍 has also been spending the past 9 years doing some very horrible shit.
We said yes to women's fundamental constitutional right to decide for herself what she does with her body, her fate and future. We said yes to diversity. We said yes to inclusion. We said yes to pluralism. We said yes, economic justice, social justice, racial justice, environmental justice, our values where California's made so much progress. All of those things were on the ballot this evening. We Californians know how much a house matters and children matter. Good.
那我们台湾人已经知道，如果市长或里长或even总统长得太帅，事情很容易被错赛。
Los Angeles is dealing with a spike in brazen and sometimes deadly robberies. From high-end stores in Hollywood to mansions there, thieves have been stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of jewelry, electronics, and much more. LA police say robberies are up about 17% this year compared to the same time last year.
We're struggling. We got to go to our community churches to get potatoes, rice, eggs, juices, stuff like that to help feed our family because we can't make groceries. Times are getting hard.
Smash and grabs, luxury store shakedowns, the pillaging of department stores.
The governor insisting the system is in place that can fix the problem.
Police need to arrest them. Prosecutors need to prosecute them. Judges need to hold people accountable.
The jury is already in on this one. If you elect a government official who's just a little bit too handsome, the chances of him being a political scoundrel skyrocket to the moon.
Department of Motor Vehicles offices around California started accepting driver's license applications from people in the country illegally.
The DMVs are expecting millions of applications.
There are also several new laws to protect illegal immigrants in California. They passed SB 54, the Sanctuary City Bill, limiting the amount of cooperation between state and local law enforcement and Immigration's Customs Enforcement, or ICE.
A big victory in Sacramento for the controversial California Sanctuary State Bill, also known as SB 54. On an 8-3 vote, the State Assembly Judiciary Committee approved the bill, which would move California one more step forward to challenging the Trump administration's crackdown on undocumented immigrants.
Now, California has been the American epicenter for a lot of ridiculous DEI policies, and it has caused quite a few social problems as a result. But here's the thing, there's actually one thing that ranks right above DEI, known as ESG. environmental social governance. And DEI represents the S in ESG.
Drivers in the Golden State typically pay well above the U.S. national average.
Part of the reason why prices have been so high is that California has really restricted the ability for refineries to expand and grow. California has its own standards for what type of gasoline must be used. It's the only state in the nation in which an Air Resources Board, that is the California Air Resources Board, supersedes the federal government, the EPA's requirements.
Well, new regulations on California emissions could actually lead to higher gas prices here in Nevada.
The state's Air Resources Board voting to move forward with the controversial plan tonight. It's meant to reduce planet warming emission, but drivers here at home don't think it should cost them.
The California Air Resources Board voted to pass stricter state regulations to reduce fuel emissions while also funding electric car charging stations.
Working families in our inland region, many of whom lack access to reliable alternatives to driving, are deserving of more state resources to facilitate their transportation needs.
So that S in ESG, the DEI policies, has resulted in your social media feed being riddled with people arguing all over the place and also giving us a lot of content. But the E in ESG, representing environmental protection policies, has the ability to change your life, your work, and even the entire country.
The battle over SpaceX rocket launches from Vandenberg Space Force Base is reaching new heights. Governor Gavin Newsom is now weighing in on a lawsuit launched by SpaceX CEO Elon Musk against the state's Coastal Commission. Musk claims the commission is blocking him from expanding launches from the base because of politics.
Elon Musk announcing in protest he is moving the headquarters for his companies SpaceX and X from California to Texas. This comes after the state banned school districts from requiring staff to inform parents about their child's gender identity change. It's the first law like it across the nation, signed by Governor Newsom on Monday. The tech billionaire wrote on his platform X, "This is the final straw. Because of this law and many others that preceded it, attacking both families and companies, SpaceX will now move its HQ from Hawthorne, California to Starbase, Texas."
These ESG policies were so out of control that it even caused Elon Musk to completely pack up and move his entire SpaceX operation to my home state in Texas.
Gavin Newsom's message on this day: more water and more jobs in Colusa County, where the land for the state's proposed Sites Reservoir sits, waiting for a groundbreaking.
And we're going to continue to advocate for federal resources. Donald Trump, this is your kind of project. We did everything on our permitting to do our part in terms of expediting this.
Republican Assemblymember James Gallagher says construction on sites should have started already, and that state agencies like the Department of Fish and Wildlife and the State Water Resources Control Board have delayed permitting under Newsom's watch.
Fun fact, Southern California is dry as fuck, and that is where the scene of this horrible crime is taking place right now. LA receives just 1/8 of Taiwan's annual rainfall, yo. Now, although our country does experience a few water shortages from time to time, it is nothing compared to what LA goes through on a yearly basis. And originally, their solution to combat this issue was the Sites Reservoir.
Progress on the Sites Reservoir in Colusa and Glenn counties has been on hold for several years.
The Sites Reservoir, about 75 miles northwest of Sacramento, would store enough water to meet the annual needs of 3 million California households. Environmental challenges have been stalling the project.
Now, the Sites Reservoir has the potential to deliver Northern California's resources to SoCal's LA, helping to keep the place become too dry and, most importantly, better helping to prevent wildfires. But under Gavin's new ESG policies, just like DEI, you cannot discriminate against any living being, even tiny little bitty fish.
They said, "We have no water." I said, "Do you have a drought?" "No, we don't have a drought." I said, "Why don't you have no water?" "Because the water isn't allowed to flow down. It's got a natural flow from Canada all the way up north of water, more water than they could ever use. And in order to protect a tiny little fish, the water up north gets routed into the Pacific Ocean. Millions and millions of gallons of water gets poured."
Dude, even the Orange Man knew about this problem way before this went down. And it ain't no secret that that entire state is completely against him. But in spite of all that, he still expresses concern and recognizes the severity of the problem.
I talked to a fireman once. He goes, "Dude, one day," he goes, "it's just going to be the right wind and fire's going to start in the right place and it's going to burn through LA all the way to the ocean and there's not a thing we can do about it." I go, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, we just get lucky." He goes, "We get lucky with the wind." He goes, "But if the wind hits the wrong way, it's just going to burn straight through LA and there's not going to be a thing we can do about it."
Now, the Trump clip was from 2 months ago, but that firefighter Joe Rogan clip was from nearly 7 months ago, yo. Even then, these fools were warning and then just a half year later, the worst wildfire in the city's entire history appeared. So let's review Gavin Newsom's policies so far. Between ESG and DEI, you have an increasingly severe illegal immigration crisis, an increase in crime and carbon emissions fees more than doubling for local companies, and over the course of the 6 years since Gavin Newsom took office, California's debt has increased bay. And then couple all that with his ridiculous commitment to save wildlife, even at the expense of the Californian people, the construction of a new reservoir was blocked. Fuck. Now let's be clear, this is not direct cause and effect. Gavin Newsom's actions indirectly contributed to the situation that LA finds itself in right now. But remember, at the beginning of this video, I said that it was two people's decisions that led to the predicament that LA finds itself in now. And unlike Gavin Newsom, the decisions that this second person made are a direct cause as fuck. Bring in California public enemy number 1, Karen Ruth Bass.
Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor? Have you nothing to say today? Have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today? Elon Musk says that you're utterly incompetent. Are you considering your position? Madam Mayor, have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today who are dealing with this disaster?
The ironically named Karen Bass is the current mayor of Los Angeles. And as you know, in California, you know when it comes to politics, you can't survive unless you are a Democrat.
It's true.
Now, I know a lot of our viewers live in LA, and you probably have quite a few strong opinions when it comes to California and LA's immigration policies. In fact, why don't you share some down below?
I'm very familiar with Kamala Harris as the Senator and Attorney General in California, and I can tell you that the words that she has often spoken when it comes to defunding the police and ICE kin to the KKK is demoralizing to law enforcement and those trying to protect our country and protect victims. Thousands of people coming through a day where I visited and I saw people from Yemen, China coming through. A friend of mine, Jody Jones, his brother was shot and killed at an AM/PM mini-mart where an illegal immigrant who had been deported 3 times over found his way back into the United States, attempted a robbery, and killed a man. We're starting to see is an influx of Mandarin, or those from China. We're unraveling a human case of over 40 women.
Now, last year when we covered Ling Yuan Go, we talked about how LA has a serious police officer shortage. We're talking about a little over 9,000 police officers in the entire department. And let's do the math again, shall we? If they change shifts every 12 hours, that's 1 officer for 900 people.
Jesus. There were no reductions that were made that would have impacted the situation that we were dealing with over the last couple of days. There was a little bit of confusion because money was allocated to be distributed later on, which was actually going to support salaries and other parts of the fire department that were distributed a little later. So I think it's most important to understand that we were in tough budgetary times. Everybody knew that. But that the impact of our budget really did not impact what we've been going through over the last few days.
But one group was in even worse position than the LAPD is the LAFD, whose firefighting force is barely 1/3 than that of the police department, and only 1,000 are on active duty at any period of time. With the population of LA almost at 4 million people, 就等于是一个消防员要负责4000名人口，或是等于2.5个大安森林公园的面积。
The federal government is cutting the city of LA a check for nearly $22 million to help house migrants. The city has made itself a sanctuary for migrants arriving in the country, but has had a tough time finding them homes. Many have been set up at the Union Rescue Mission on Skid Row, while others have pitched tents on sidewalks.
So the city of LA is more than willing to break off a little bit of change for some illegal immigrants, but when it comes to funding the severely understaffed LAFD, Fun fact, fire don't give a fuck about your gender, your skin color, or what letter of the alphabet you represent. It is an equal opportunity ash creator.
Every day, the LAFD is called upon to respond to crises, and today it is taking a step to resolve one of its own. The department's first ever Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Bureau will launch in January, 1 year since its first ever female fire chief, Kristen Crowley, was appointed.
People ask me, well, what number are you looking for? I say, I'm not looking for a number. It's never enough.
Out of 3,300 city firefighters, only 115 are women right now.
Now, I'll admit that is a bit underwhelming, but that is not a crisis you need to be focusing on. Here's an idea. How about focusing on a more important crisis, the goddamn fires?
Is she strong enough to do this? Or you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire, which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
Maybe, maybe not. Maybe fuck yourself.
Now, this leads some folks to assume that the LAFD is lowering its standards in the name of DEI policies. But real talk, it's obviously they're just treating DEI like a corporate image. And these fools have straight up shot themselves in the foot, because from the LA mayor to the fire chief, they're now being heavily criticized because they're women, leaving a lot of folks to assume that the only reason why they got the jobs was because of DEI policies in the first place.
Would that $17 million that had been cut from your budget have made a difference in this fight?
I would say with the lean forward posture that we took, knowing that a $17 million cut we had to take from somewhere, and that was from the non-essential duties and responsibilities that as a fire department we have taken on over the past many, many years.
There were no reductions that were made that would have impacted the situation that we were dealing with over the last couple of days.
Because that mouthful of word salad she just gave in that interview was very different than the letter she wrote to the mayor less than 1 month ago.
The Los Angeles City Fire Department, LAFD, is facing unprecedented operational challenges due to the elimination of critical civilian positions and a $7 million reduction in overtime variable staffing hours, V hours. These budgetary reductions have adversely affected the department's ability to maintain core operations such as technology and communication infrastructure, payroll processing, training, fire prevention, and community education. In addition to these impacts, the reduction in V hours has severely limited the department's capacity to prepare for, train for, and respond to large-scale emergencies, including wildfires, earthquakes, hazardous material incidents, and large public events. Specialized programs and resources such as air operations, tactical EMS units, disaster response, and community emergency response teams, CERT, which rely heavily on V hours, are now at risk of reduced effectiveness. This report provides an in-depth analysis of these cascading impacts, underscoring the critical need for resource restoration to ensure operational readiness, firefighter safety, and the delivery of high-quality public service.
So as you can see, the LAFD fire chief made it very clear that those budget cuts were going to seriously affect their ability to be prepared for a disaster. And when it comes to her qualifications, homegirl has been in the fire department for nearly 22 years, and she's worked almost every position there is to work, starting from the bottom all the way to the top. So make no mistake, she is completely qualified for her position. But DEI has nothing to do with her being hired. It's all because she is more than willing to protect her boss rather than protecting the citizens of LA.
Why is there a fire happening right now?
There are multiple fires that are taking place.
Are you serious?
We don't know how it started. There, you know,
I think
winds.
It's all the gay people in LA.
Okay,
there we go.
Okay.
But because there are always bayline like this who exist in society, even when women and members of the LGBTQ+++ community are more than qualified, when shit hits the fan, people are more than eager to blame DEI, turning diversity, equity, inclusion to dividing everyone instantly, where you see DEI becoming a social IED causing everyone to DIE.
This is an active situation. And conserve water to the extent that you can. We want to make sure that we are ready if we need more water. Right now, if you need help, emergency information, resources, and shelter is available. All of this can be found at URL.
And then the mayor, fresh off her plane from Africa, who donned in her DEI cape, doesn't even know what the she's reading. You need to go to URL for information? That's the hyperlink you're supposed to click, fool.
You are really dumb. For real.
So in conclusion, LA has a mayor who's completely incompetent and cuts the budget of one of the most important agencies in protecting Los Angeles citizens.
Everyone who went to school there, they lost their homes. They lost 2 homes because they were living in one and building another. Governor, please tell me, what are you going to do with the president right now?
We're getting the resources to help rebuild.
Why was there no water in the hydrants, Governor?
That's all literally.
Is it going to be different next time?
Of course.
What are you going to do?
I would do whatever I can.
But you're not! I see do you know there's water dripping over there, Governor? There's water coming out there. You can use it.
And then on top of that, you have a governor who's more than willing to put it in his campaign manager's wife, all the while sending the bill to the California taxpayer and increasing the entire state's debt by almost 4-fold. Wow, so when bad things like this happen, you can only shout time and time again. Go woke, go broke.
Told y'all niggas, I told y'all.
But tell me what you think. To all my LA viewers, please, I hope you guys are staying safe and looking after your loved ones. Until then, I'll see you on the flip side. Peace!